Yes, mates, how's it going? My name's Lee, and welcome back to the FPL Punk YouTube channel, where we try to dominate FPL one game week at a time. We are back for the new FPL season, and I finally made my first official draft. So subscribe to the channel down below for more FPL content. Anyway, let's rock and roll.
Get strong.
So keep in mind when I created this draft, I'm planning on wildcarding relatively early, around game week 4, game week 6, around that period. So I'm trying to maximise as many points as possible in that first initial period and try and make as minimal free transfers as possible. Wildcard, save up all the transfers and try and roll as many as I can moving forward. So there's a couple positions that are still up for grabs, and one of those being David Raya. The reason why I've opted for David Raya in goal is that I want a piece of that Arsenal defence. It's the cheapest to get into it. I know he's nailed. I know he's going to start. They've got 2 home games. They start against Wolves at home. I think it's about as close to a clean sheet bank as you can get on the opening day. Arsenal are just so good. They actually do keep more clean sheets away from home, or they did at least last season anyway. But I am relatively confident that Arsenal can get something from this, and Raya is the cheapest way to get into the Arsenal defence. I still might tweak some things around. Like I might bring in like someone like a Saliba or Gabriel, take David Raya down to a 4.5. I just don't like any of the 4.5s right now. If I was gonna pause and pick one right now, probably going to be someone like Henderson from Palace, who looks like he's got the number 1 spot, but just not fully convinced right now. In the defence, I've opted for Trent, Gvardiol, and Mikolenko. The reason why I've gone for Trent, massive attacking output. They've got the first 2 games are very good. Ipswich away. They've got Man United in game week 3, but we can kind of manoeuvre that and kind of figure out as we do go along. He hasn't started any pre-season games yet, which is a slight concern. If Trent was a doubt for game week 1, I might look at somebody like a Robertson from Liverpool. Like I still want some of that Liverpool defence. So if that was the case, I might go to Robertson instead. But I do want a bit of that Liverpool defence anyway. Guardiola is a pretty much lock for me right now. Like I don't see a world in where I don't start game week 1 with Guardiola in my team. He has got a relatively tough game away to Chelsea in game week 1. I think City will still win. They'll pull through. I'm not convinced they will keep a clean sheet, but we all saw Guardiola's attacking output towards the back end of the season. He got a few goals and a few assists in that last stretch of the season. And the reason why I've gone for Mikolenko is that Everton have got 2 home games, Bournemouth and Brighton in game week 1. I think they've got Bournemouth in there as well. They have got a relatively tough game in game week 2, but I have got someone on the bench in Anthony Robertson. Who could come in and replace somebody like a Mikolenko in game week 2 or Trent against Man United in game week 3. So Anthony Robinson is the only decent bench option I've got outside of Barker and Bergvall as well. But I just wanted a bit of that Everton defence, and maybe I could go for Pickford in goal and use the money from David Raya to go for someone else in defence. If that was the case, I'd look at someone like a Munoz from Crystal Palace that I really like. I think Palace are going to be really good this season, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they do set up and how they do line up. And if he's anything like it was last season, particularly towards the end of the season, he was almost like a right winger. And if that's the case, maybe Munoz is the right play for this. But this is the defence I've got right now. I'm relatively happy with it. If Trent's fit and available, he's a 100% lock. If Guardiola is fit and ready to go, 100% lock. David Raya and Mikolenko, still a little bit of doubt. But I do like having a decent first sub on the bench, and that's the reason why I've gone for Robertson. He could be any of the 4.5 defenders, or I could take some like a Bergvall up to some like an Amad Diallo, an Oscar Bob, a Rodgers from Villa. I just want one decent option off the bench, and that's what I've currently got for right now. Let's move on to the midfield. So this is the midfield I've currently got set up. I've got Hudson-Odoi, Mo Salah, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Eberiche Eze. I have opted for Salah in this. I just find it so hard to look past him. His expected points and his goals and his attacking threat. Like everyone can question about how Arne Slot is going to line up, but it's so hard not to have someone like Salah who has been so productive and so reliable over the years. Away to Ipswich is about one of the best games you can get. I think Ipswich will be quite open. I think they'll want to play, which will suit Liverpool. From what I've kind of heard and what I've kind of read, Slot is like so similar to Jurgen Klopp, like very expansive, very kind of high pressing, but probably more possession based more than anything, which I think might help Salah. Rather than kind of playing on the break all the time, if he can kind of push teams in, that might suit Salah now and now that he's getting a little bit older. It might suit him not to do all that running all the time. So I just don't see a world in where I don't want to start with Salah, unless something else props up between now and the start of the season. I think you have to start with Salah. I think it's just so dangerous if you don't. Hudson-Odoi, I was just so impressed with him last season. I think when we started, he made 20-25 appearances last season. He got nearly double-figure goals and assists. So I just think he's just a really solid, good option. Like, I don't think you can kind of look at it any other way. For 5.5 million at Bournemouth at home, it's about as good as you're going to get. I know you could go for someone like Gibbs White, who's at 6.5, and Alangus is also 5.5, but I just think he's a lock in that attacking front line for Nottingham Forest, and they've got a nice little run, the 3 opening games, and that also plays into my strategy of wildcarding around game week 4. That's the reason why I've gone for someone like a Hudson-Odoi there. I have gone for Smith Rowe, who was recently transferred to Fulham, and the same reason why I've got Robertson on the bench. I just think it's a great option as well. I mean, like you'll see my forward line as well. I think I'm going a bit crazy over the Fulham assets. I just think they have a really good season. Like, I know they've lost Paulinho in midfield, who is a big ball, but I think they are looking to bring a midfielder in. Looking at McTominay from my boys, they're looking at Andre from Fluminense as well. So they are looking to strengthen that centre of midfield. And I think it's a really good pickup for them. In terms of the price, I do think they've done Arsenal pretty bad. I mean, I don't think Smith Rowe is worth 27 plus 7. He's barely played a full season in about 3 years, but when he did play that full season, he got something like 10 league goals in about 35 games or so. So when he does get the game time and he is fit, and that is the biggest question, if he is fit and if he can stay fit, I think I'll have a very productive season for Fulham. They have got Man United away in the first game, but we've got so many injured right now. Like, I'm not concerned about playing any kind of Fulham attackers. I think they'll do relatively well against us, and they've always kind of put up a decent game against us as well. And I think Smith Rowe could cause us problems, whether that's playing on the left wing, attacking midfield, or anywhere in that forward line. I think Smith Rowe will cause us some problems. Eze is just an absolute lock at 7 million. With Elise going to Bayern Munich, Eze is just, he's the main man for Palace right now. Everything's going to run through him. I wouldn't sniff at someone like a Kamada, who they brought in. I think he's a really classy player, and he might just kind of replace the role that Elise was doing. But you want someone 5.5 alongside someone like Hudson-Odoi or a Smith Rowe. I don't hate someone like a Kamada, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be a really good player for Palace. I don't think he'll get many goals and assists, but his all-round play will be very, very good, and hopefully that will kind of facilitate Eze to kind of do better things. Taking penalties, taking set pieces, he does what he does. His stats and his expected data is through the roof. I think you need Eze going into the season, but it's my opinion. Leave a comment down below if you disagree, if you need Eze or not. Onto the forward line, and I've got Haaland, Muniz and Isak. Onto Haaland, he scored a hat-trick against Chelsea the other day. Same again as Salah. I just don't see a world in where I wouldn't want to have Salah for game week 1. And I know you can kind of squeeze all these different other players in, but I think looking at my team overall, I don't think the team's kind of sacrificing like many positions elsewhere. Like, you're always going to miss out on certain assets. Like, you can't squeeze in all these players alongside someone like a Cole Palmer and a Heung-min Son, and Arsenal defence and Arsenal attack and Arsenal midfield. Like there's always going to be some kind of like you can't have everybody pretty much. So I think having these, both Howard and Salah, I think these will be 2 of the biggest point scorers over the first 3 or 4 game weeks, and that's the reason why I've opted for it. All these players I feel like could go pretty big relatively early on, probably besides Mikalenko, but I have got Robertson on the bench there as well. So Haaland could even be a contender for captain for game week 1 alongside Salah and Isak. But I know with 15 million, I know you can spread the funds around and do certain things with it. I just think it's too risky, especially early on. I think it's going to be massively owned. I think right now the ownership is not reflective of how it's going to be in game approaching game week 1. I think as we approach game week 1, he's going to be 75-80% owned. I don't even think that he won't be. I think Salah will be probably a little bit less, around 50-60%. But like Haaland for me is pretty much a lock right now. And like, unless I want someone else in midfield, whether I want someone like a Heung-min Son or Odegaard or Bruno Fernandes, then Haaland might be the one that has to move. But right now, I'm really happy keeping Haaland in my team. Muniz, same as Smith Rowe. Like, I know they're playing Man United away, but I think they'll cause a lot of problems. I'm not 100% sure if he is going to start. Like, I don't know the situation with Raul Jimenez. So it'd be very interesting to see how Muniz kind of gets on throughout the rest of the preseason, and kind of what Marco Silva says, and whether he is guaranteed to start. But he has got the number 9 shirt, which says to me that he is the main man and he is going to play and he's going to start. If that's the case, he's probably on penalties there as well. And then besides the Man United game, they've got a couple of decent games after that in game week 2 and game week 3. Isak is just an absolute lock. He's probably the first player I put in the team besides Eze. But the players that are absolutely 100% nailed is Trent, Guardiola, Eze, Isak to probably, and then kind of want Salah and Haaland. Like, it's hard not to have them right now, but Isak is a very strong contender to be captain for game week 1. We don't really know what's going on with their kind of backup forward position right now. Be interesting to see like what they kind of do in the transfer market. Like, I know they are looking at a few different players, and they brought in Asula from Sheffield United as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works out. But overall, relatively happy with my team right now. Things can change between now and the start of the season, so stay tuned. I will keep making videos. I kind of want to do a few different videos looking at different price points and kind of ranking players who are in different price points. So stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment down below. Alright mates, that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. So today went for my first official draft game week 1 for the new FPL season. I've gone big. I've got Salah, Haaland, Trent, Isak. I've got all the big boys in there. You know, I've had to make room for certain kind of players. Like, I can't get everybody in there, but I think I've done a decent job for my first draft. I am willing to be open to suggestions, so leave any comments down below of players that you think I should consider or should tweak things around and move players around. But if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment down below. Have a good day, have a good pre-season for game week 1. Peace and love.